So looks like you guys sort of know who your ideal customer is, right? So the other way to look at it is, one is who are they, first thing. Second is how do you reach them, right? And then where do they belong? The other way to look at this is who are they, identify, define who your customer is. The second, how do you reach them, is what are the channels? Like for example, you said you sort of know somebody in GE, for example, right? So
Actually, they came at our news actually. So through that.
Okay, so you have a channel wherein you got an introduction to them through some
It
means.
was part of a marketing that our news came into Singapore, so one of the employees from GE came to know it.
Okay, got it. So, but G is your ideal customer is one person, right? This is more, think a little broader, right? Which is first define your ideal customer. GE is one customer, and if you say GE is my ideal customer, that means your entire business is predicated on GE. It means it's a single point of failure for your business.
Yes, sir. I have an answer for that, sir. We have a strategy that GE and its its alliances, they hold the major market share, 59% total market share. So definitely it would be great for us to have a business with the majority of the market share.
Correct, but again, it doesn't take away from the fact that it's a single point of failure.
Yes, sir.
It's a single point of failure.
Yes, sir. As a company, I heard from Guvi, when we received that Guvi startup Guvi. So, the founder was talking about first we have to concentrate on B2B relationship.
Not saying no. Point is, when an ideal customer cannot be one name,
Yeah.
right? An ideal customer is what you would, generally when you start your marketing, right? You start by, first you define your product. What is your product? Next you start defining what an ideal customer looks like. And the ideal customer, it's called an IDP, ideal customer profile. When you start building it, it's not, GE is, sure, it's a company, but whether it is a B2B or a B2C, a company never buys your product. There is a person on the other end in the company who's buying your product or your service for that matter. So, who is your ideal customer? So, the answer to that, the first one is, sure, company like XYZ. Next, in the company, say a procurement manager for turbines, for jet engines, for this, for that. Okay, is that still broad? Yeah. Do I narrow it? In who looks after, say, the Indian market, because, say, I can't go out of India. And to start with, that might be your ideal customer. But your ideal customer profile has to be such that it is expandable across. So, the person that you describe as your buyer, in your case in GE, that canonical person has to exist in other companies. So, your actual ideal customer profile is not GE. GE just happens to be the way that you are going in. No, your buyer. This has nothing to do with the end user. It is your buyer, right? The customer is your customer, right? You're all, I'm assuming most of you at least are doing B2B, right? So, even if it is a B2B2C application, your customer is giving you money, which means you guys have to focus on who that person is. That company is, that person is. Second is how do you reach them, which is the whole channels thing, right? You said, for example, that you got it through an ad. That's a marketing channel. But if you had to go and do business development, what are the channels that you guys would use? Social media, okay. LinkedIn, okay. Cold emailing, okay.
Workshops, expose.
Expose, okay.
Word of mouth.
Sorry, word of mouth is again, okay, fair enough, okay.
So in our case, we can influence the end users. That's what we call reverse distribution channel marketing style.
Reverse distribution. Sure, you are going and so what you're talking about is there is in a buying.
If Boeing is the end user for the jet engines which we are talking about, we can influence Boeing by explaining the advantages of our product and how much profit they can make. Let it take this as an instance that any airliner can make a profit up to 18.3% gain
Okay.
in per fiscal year.
Who buys your product?
I mean, our product will be utilized by
No, who pays you?
GE will buy our product.
So at the end of the day, what you're talking about is an influencer. Boeing can go and tell GE, these guys are awesome, please buy their engines, because if you buy them, we are going to save X and Y and Z. They cannot make it binding on GE. If GE, say at a company mandate, the president of GE India, if such a designation exists, his son-in-law had a company that does something similar to yours. Boeing has no use. You can go and convince Boeing all you want and they can become your best friends. Pointless, right? So there is an influencer, but an influencer only holds so much influence. They are not a buying center. They are not the decision makers. So in your buying, I think there are going to be sessions that you're going to have about this, where you will have to identify on the other side who is your champion, who's basically going to give you, like on the other side, they call them deal champions and things like that. Then who is your influencer, then who is your buyer, who is your user. So there are a bunch of these things which you have to sort of map internally. This is what larger companies do, but in your case it might be only one person on your end. So you will have to figure that out, figure out your market and how to reach them. One channel that I think not anyone said at this point is partnerships. You need not necessarily reach people yourself. You can reach them through partners, right? So that's another very, very important channel that you can use to reach your customers. And then where do they belong? Where do they belong is more segmentation, right? So again, what would you call your customer segments?
Aerospace,
Strategic sector is vague.
defense, nuclear energy, automobile.
So each one of these are segments for you, right? Okay. What about you guys?
Monitoring.
Sorry?
Monitoring solutions.
I didn't hear.
Monitoring solutions.
No. What are your segments? So what are your customer segments? Who are your customers that you said you know? What segments do they belong in?
Automobile.
Okay.
Like any manufacturing, like product manufacturing.
Okay. What are your segments? Navy. You have one segment. Defense. Okay. All right. What are your segments?
Defense as well as civil.
Cool. So you have inherently. Sorry, you guys.
Anything that's related to civil aerospace drone operations. It's more generic. Actually, we are building a platform, so we are capable of addressing different domains.
No. What are those domains?
One is
Surveillance, okay.
Industrial monitoring.
Industrial monitoring.
Schedule patrolling in cities for security.
So these are your segments, because you might be building a platform, but you don't sell to everyone. The person who buys your platform is not buying your platform's capability. We learned this the hard way. We always said we're building a platform, The other guy said, okay, so what? Right? Do you guys know what a platform is? Can you guys define a platform? It caters to different applications.
Framework with which you can address different needs across domains.
Okay, this table, is it a platform? I can use it for eating, I can use it for this thing. Really?
Maybe, not sure.
Oh, yes or no?
Maybe something on which others also can
Okay, something on which other people can build. Fair. Okay.
develop on that
Yeah.
for a specific use case.
Okay. What else? Can you guys define a platform? You said you guys are building a platform. What is a platform?
We build a framework that can be extended to other businesses.
Okay. Rule 1 of defining anything. If you are defining something with another word that requires a definition, your definition is not good enough. So you said a platform as a framework. What is a framework?
A set of algorithms.
What is an algorithm? This is not for you, right? This is for everyone. If you cannot define what you want to define in the simplest of ways, you are complicating it. Break it down to its most constituent components. Again, let's take the example. How would you define what Google does? Search, okay. Do you need to be more this thing than that?
The they are bringing artificial intelligence.
Sure, they can build all that, but at the end of the day, when I say Google, what do you say? Search. It's as simple as that. If I ask you to define Google, you'd say Google is a company that does search and probably a lot of other things. It's as simple as that. Thank you. Let's take other things. Let me take an example of. Actually, you know what? No, let's go later. Cool. So the customer, right, ultimately is defined in broadly these three strokes. First, you need to identify who they are. Second, how do you reach them? And three, how do you segment them so that you reach them in different ways? And in a platform, I'll tell you my favorite definition of a platform, I think it was Bill Gates who said it, right? He said, you can call yourself a platform or something truly becomes a platform only when more people make money off of you than you do. Think about it, right? Think about which is the biggest cloud platform in the world? AWS, right? AWS is far ahead of GCP and Azure. I think their revenue was what, 30, 40 billion last year alone? No, 20, 26, 30 billion, whatever that one was. That's a big number, right? But if you look at the things that are built on AWS, all of Netflix is on AWS. All of Amazon is on AWS. Think about the transacted value on Amazon, which would not exist if AWS didn't exist today. So the sum total of money that other people make off of AWS is more than what AWS makes, which itself is a phenomenally large number, right? So if you are calling yourselves a platform, always think about that, right? Otherwise, you're not really a platform. You might want to call yourself a platform, you're not. So, yes. Stop calling me sir. Okay.
So
Again.
When we require competition.
When you require competition, at all points.
The partnership with the competition.
Competition or?
Competition. Partnership with competitors. We are when we form the partnerships with our competitors, around competitors.
Okay.
I mean,
when do you require it?
Yeah, when do we really require?
Why do you need it?
Actually, our product is kind of a product like that.
Sure.
When we are bringing out an intellectual.
No. Why do you need it? Just answer the question. Why do you need it? Not such a big answer. Just give me a quick answer.
Mutual growth,
That is your answer. If you are going to get something out of partnering with somebody else, which is not going to adversely affect your whatever it is, do it. It could be a short-term strategy. It could be a long-term strategy. It could even be a strategy for you getting acquired. You see a lot of these companies that are partnering with larger companies. There is only one aim, that eventually they see their exit as being acquired by that company. Totally fine. So it depends on what you define your growth as, what you look at in terms of what you want to do, etc. etc. But there isn't an answer for that except if you ask me, it's a very common sense answer. It should make sense to you, and it should not be harmful to you. That's it. Like for example, would you say Apple and Google are like competitors? Yes. In some way they are competitors. Google pays Apple $10 billion a year. You know why? Because Google is the default search engine on Safari, and most people in the world are on Safari. It's as simple as that, right? So it is required at times. So yeah, you do it when you need to.
Even Samsung and
Samsung, I would not see. I've heard this example a lot of Samsung, and the thing is, Samsung, the way the company is structured is that it's a conglomerate of a large number of companies. So Samsung Mobile is also as much a consumer of Samsung display as Apple is. And so that's like that, but fair enough. At a macro level, what you're saying is correct. Cool. Anything else? Any questions before we move on? At customers. Obviously, without customers, you guys have nothing, so pay attention.
You said how do you reach them? So basically, can you give us an example of how mass data reaches to the customers?
Sure, I'll go one by actually I didn't realize I had slides, sorry. So, so again, you define your customers. Not this is that IDP that I was talking about, right? I think you have sessions tomorrow about this. Their life, their characteristics, their jobs. You do all of that and define who your buyer is. this is the question that is very important. Why should they buy from you? Which is, how are you going to make them successful? Right? And by them, it is not so much the company, it is actually the person also. Right? And a very cynical way of looking at it is, if I can convince this person to buy from me, and if this actually works out for them, will they get a better appraisal next year? It could be as cynical as that, but then it works. Because then you will know what motivates the person who's buying from you. So you can tailor your pitch and you can do everything according to that. And again, this is not a company you're selling to. You're selling to a person at the end of the day. Figure out who that person is, what makes them tick. Right? Yeah, this is nice. So, the ideal customer profile. Right? So you could do it this way or not. So, cool. Now the third part of it, right, is the infrastructure of. Sorry, before we move on from customers, you asked me how we do it. So for us, we have at my company at MSD, we have a few product lines. We take per product line. We look at first we look at where we are a B2B company, right? So first we look at our target market, which is this type of company requires our services. In that company, then we go down to designations. Who in this company would be a buying center? Who would be an influencer, etc. We pick that, and then we have both an inbound and an outbound engine. Inbound is more about marketing. By marketing, I mean banner ads, SEO, and what is the third one? LinkedIn marketing, etc., etc. So basically, getting people to come to us by spending money. Paid marketing is inbound, and outbound is we have a team of they call business development representatives or SDR, sales development representatives, who will actively make lists of people across different companies. So we start with companies, get a list of companies, get that list vetted by somebody who says yes, this is a correct list. From that company, there are a bunch of tools which you can use and get who the designations are, who the people are in the designations that you want, get that list, reach out to them either through cold emails or LinkedIn or everything that you said. We use all of it. Varying success depending on who you're reaching out to, the region that they're in, etc., etc. Sometimes even WhatsApp, cold calling, everything works. So that's Navigator. Actually, I think our company doesn't use that much because we haven't found it that useful. There are other tools that we use.
Will we coverage that?
To me, no. No, not. I am not an expert in that, although I was running that team for a while. So I'm sure that there is, I think, a session on day 3 or day 4 where people are going to talk about that, their outreach part of it. I remember seeing it. Yeah, I just have a look. I think there is something coming. Cool. So now with the anything else on the customer side? Basic outcome, figure out who the customer is, how you can reach them. The third part, yeah. Cool. All right, now let's go to the infrastructure, right, which is everything else that is there. And this is again broadly 4 things. First, what is your business model? Let's start with what is a business model. What is a business model?
How are you going to make money?
How you're going to make money, fair enough. Any other advances on that?
Timeline and traction.
Sorry?
Timeline and traction.
Timeline and traction for?
To business aspects of the
Don't understand.
It defines how we conduct our business.
How you conduct your business? How?
How are we going to sell the product? What our product is going to be? Who will be our customers? It's a collection of all this data.
All of these is your business model? Does it matter?
Part of it is business.
Does it matter? Does it matter how you build your business for you to have a business model? Or how you build your product for it to feature in a business model?
I didn't mean how we build up. I meant like what is our product and what's the uniqueness in our product that's going to create an advantage.
That's your marketing pitch. That has nothing to do with your.
So I will, to whom I'm going to sell my product,
What are going
What
to be
product
my
I'm
revenue
solving?
streams and such things.
what cost I'm going to put in building that product, and in what ways I'm going to get my money, how I'm going to reach my customer.
Why does to who I'm selling, why does that determine your business model or the way that you do business?
To him only I'm going to sell my product.
Sure, that is fine.
Ultimately, someone has to buy my product.
Correct. But that is a given. You have already decided that that person is the one who has to buy your product. So how does that dictate how you do your business or how you build your product? Does it? I'm not talking about your identification. Sorry, one second. I'm not talking about your identification of who it is. Is that going to dictate how you're doing what you're doing? It might be a yes, I'm just might be playing. So, yeah.
Okay, so I will start with an an example of production and selling business model. So it is like what we are doing, what we are going to do, through what through what mode we are going to do, and how we are going to make the revenue.
Is it revenue?
Revenue, yes, sir. Like production and selling means like basically, yeah, we have to get the revenue at the end of the day.
Is revenue what matters to you?
I mean, how we are gonna do, and
No, is revenue what matters to you? Is revenue fair enough? By doing, I'm going to produce it X, Y, Z this way, that way, you get your revenue. Cool. Anything else?
and
What do I do with the money?
What do you do with the money you make? It's a good problem to have. Don't worry. So,
Key activities, key partners.
key activities, key partners. Okay. Okay. You've seen the business model canvas, I think. So, don't go by that.
Products we are selling, pricing structure, and the revenue.
All of you are
streams.
very happy with revenue.
sir, like how we are gonna
What
scale it
value?
up.
All of you are so happy with revenue. Nobody wants to make money. Nobody wants profit in this entire. It's all altruistic. All of you are. All of you are looking for funding, no? That is why. Because in funding, if the basic difference between a bootstrapped and a venture funded company is, in venture funding you go for growth. Profits will come later. Don't worry about it. Or so it's supposed to be. In bootstrapped, it's your own money, which means you look for profits first, and then you reinvest profits, right? So first thing, a business plan or a business model is that, right? First thing is you can even start there and say, am I even looking for revenue or profit? And that will actually determine a lot of things that happen after that. How you're building, whatever are you building. So for example, when we started, we had a very rudimentary idea of what market need was because we were very early, right? There was no AI when we started. 2015, there was no AI. People were still talking about big data at that time. So at that time, we had to educate people about what AI was, and at that stage. But what we knew was that we always wanted to be a business, which meant we were not a technology company, right? Technology companies are created and sold for their technology, right? Businesses grow and at some point they become profitable and whatever else. So when we started doing one of the first few things that we wanted to do, we obviously did it with our own money, and then we were bootstrapped right at the beginning, and then we got funding and whatever, but all our funding was mostly against revenue goals also, not just technology goals. So there was always that emphasis on getting customers and building products to making sure that we are solving the customer needs, right? As opposed to pure tech, deep tech companies that you're actually building the technology, and the money for you is the IP, right? It's not necessarily the customers and things like that. So even at that level, that decision or the way that you are going to go about it will determine parts of your business model. Do I, go for funding or not? That itself is a very fundamental part of your business model. If you say, no, for example, you said GE, right? If you say for some reason have a commitment from GE that I will give you $1 million for a year. If you burn through it, okay, our exposure is only $1 million, we're ready to forsake it. So if you have something like that, then the way that you think is very different. You're not thinking about making money at that point because you have money in the bank. You're not thinking what happens once the money is over, right? As opposed to like you have an idea, you have nothing, but you want to start with. When you're starting, for example, you guys, right, the underwater drone, you guys, you're in a good place because you sort of already know who your potential buyer is. What you need to do, you have two problems now. One, you have to make a product that works. Second is you have to get the right person there, because getting into the defense is not like approaching anyone. They have very regimented way in which they procure. You have to become vendors, and it's a big process, right? And there's a lot of red tape, and you might need help getting into that. But you at least know what your problems are, because you know where your end buyers are. But on the flip side, there is also your biggest threat, because you know only them. Because if they don't buy it, you probably don't have somebody in the private sector who wants to buy it. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I'm just making this up, right? So you have to look objectively at everything that came before this, before you make a decision on your business model, right? So you need to first figure out, as a company, as a business, are you infrastructure driven, are you customer spec driven, or are you product driven? It has to be one of these three things, right? If you're a product driven company, you build a product. You build the product, make sure that you're building product to what somebody wants, market it, sell it, no problem. If you're infrastructure driven, you're actually building infrastructure. It could be physical infrastructure, it could be software infrastructure, it could be anything, right? But it is an infrastructure driven thing which people are going to use to do something else. And the third is very simple, customer spec driven, which is a services company. Take any services, somebody comes and says, I want you to build a new website for me, I want you to do X and Y and Z for me. So it's a customer spec driven. Oh, you guys, I don't know whether you are a customer spec driven necessarily. You are sort of product driven, because you already know that there is a need in the market. But in some level, you're also beholden to the customer spec, because you will be selling that spec. And tomorrow, if the global spec changes, you'll probably be changing it. So don't think these are mutually exclusive, is what I'm saying. You could fall under more than one of these, but broadly you will know where you fall under, right? Questions? No? Okay, cool. Next, what are your key resources? Basically, what do you need to get it done? This could be in terms of people, it could be in terms of money, it could be partnerships, it could be place, incubation, I don't know, sessions like this. I don't know how useful, but maybe you don't, I don't know. What do you need? Because you know, I'm building this is what I want to do. What do I need to get it done? Those are your sort of key resources that you need to figure out. Then key partnerships. Partnerships, like you said, for example, some partnerships might help you in sales. Other partnerships might help you in simply enabling other things, right? And some partnerships could just help you in marketing, nothing more than that. So you have to figure out what your key partnerships are, if at all there are any. But does anyone here think they don't need partners in doing what they're doing?
So like that's how we bypass a lot of works and.
Sure. So you have already established that partnerships work for you. Great. Does anyone here think they don't need partners for doing what they're doing? Or, sorry, yeah.
We need partners.
What type of partners do you need?
For instance, the infrastructure partners.
Example?
Example, cloud services.
AWS. Okay, fine. So you need infra partners. Why would you need them?
To run our platform.
Okay. But at that point, they are your vendor. They're not your partner. Well, why would you need them as a partner?
Because,
What's in it for them?
That's where we spend more.
That's fine, but what's in it for them? Why should they be a partner? You can go buy compute instances on AWS.
Like we can work on a revenue sharing model where we use their database. So like from our profit we put into that.
Okay.
I don't need to spend the cash upfront. So like on my business offerings we get a share. Like how like Unreal Engine operates. Where we build a game and we are sharing one. So such a kind of a model partners can be.
Okay, interesting. Okay. Anyone else? You have such wide applications.
I mean we cannot concentrate on everything. We can just concentrate
Correct.
on one or two.
So focus, right? What is your focus at this point?
Our
But
focus is all about gas turbine engines
Cool.
and EPU fans.
nice. Okay, so you figured out, right, what your market is. Yeah, sorry.
Question, how do we differentiate the customer segments in the market? How these two things are different?
The market is macro. The customer segment is what you put. For example, this industry, that industry.
It's a projection versus reality, something like that?
No, customer segment is what you define, which is How a customer segment is simply somebody who you would treat differently from somebody else. Like for example, let's start with who buys your product on the customer side?
Scientist.
What is their designation? Scientist?
Scientist.
Okay. Scientist where?
ISRO or DRDO or BARC.
Okay. So ISRO, DRDO, BARC, right?
Yes.
Baba Atomic Research. Yeah. So do they all fall under the same segment?
No, different segments.
Why do you call them different segments?
Application is different.
Applications.
So why are you saying that? Because the way you sell to them is different. Your product is the same.
They are playing different.
They are doing what they are doing, that's not your problem. How does it affect you? The way you sell to them, the way you approach them, probably, etc., etc. So that's your own segmentation. For them, for example, say they build this propeller thing. For them, they'll probably say defense is one segment, or government is a segment for me. I don't care who in the government, what. My product is such that it doesn't matter who in the government uses it. They're all going to use it broadly the same way. So that could be their way of segmenting it. Your market is where you're selling it. It's as simple as that. What is the market for your product? So again, let's take the example of, you guys said, let me take something else for example. Let's take Swiggy. Most of you use Swiggy, I'm assuming. All of you are comfortable with Swiggy. Cool. Don't take the Instamart, that part. Let's take the food part of it. What is Swiggy?
Food delivery. Food delivery.
Food delivery, okay. Any advances on that?
Sir, about like they're collecting the data and
Don't go to data and all. What is Swiggy at that? Aggregator of what?
Aggregator of restaurants.
But she just said delivery and everyone said yes. What are you delivering? Food. Are you producing food?
No.
Actually, yes, but let's not go into that. But yeah, now they have this own path. Half of those brands are their own, same private label. They know what people are asking, etc. Let's not go there. You said delivery. You said aggregator. Okay, so that's it. What is Swiggy? If I have to ask you to define Swiggy, what is Swiggy? For platform for what?
sir, operation.
Operations. They are an operations company. Okay.
Platform for
Well, she said no logistics, delivery. Okay, then.
restaurants is a platform to sell for users to review, view, and then get it delivered.
Okay.
Connect the buyer and seller.
Connect the buyer and seller. Okay. Let me ask you a flip question. How many key stakeholders does Swiggy have? 3. Who are the 3?
Customer, delivery partner, restaurant.
Customer, delivery partner, restaurant. Okay. What are they doing for each one of these 3? What are they doing for each one of these 3?
They collect the order from the customer.
Okay.
They give it to the restaurant.
Okay.
And the restaurant gets the order done, the delivery food partner goes there, takes the food and delivers to the customer.
Okay. So what is Swiggy's market here?
Like all restaurants,
Is it all restaurants?
again the customer who would like to buy the product.
Is that enough? You have a lot of people coming on Swiggy. This happened, I think, no? 2 months ago.
They call restaurants as RX.
No, not that. There are a lot of restaurants on Swiggy. There are a lot of people willing to order food, but then no drivers or no riders. So it is.
They have one of my friend is working in Suzuki. So I have seen that they used to they used to have several zones.
Correct.
So several zones have hubs as well, so that these delivery boys have to go and collect orders from there and they will deliver.
They are, again, the point is Swiggy is a glorified logistics company, right? But which offers the additional convenience of restaurants listing in a market that they have created through their app, where customers come. There is just forget about Swiggy and all. Take a market. Right? What markets do you guys go to? Do you guys go to any markets? I'm sure some people go. Vegetable market, right? You guys, I'm assuming, go to a grocery shop at least, if not a market. Like, what is it? At the end of the day, there is some real estate somewhere where somebody has put all their stuff there in a particular way. They are offering you,
Exhibition.
sure, exhibition of everything that they have. that they have gotten from their suppliers. You are customers who are coming in there. So if either one of the two does not match, which is you keep going there and nothing is in stock, you are not going to go there, pointless. So the market or the other way around also, the market is essentially the conditions, right, that your companies exist under. Because if there is a buyer and if there is a seller, if there is no market, a market cannot be made. A simple example could be, how many of you guys trade shares, stocks? Nobody? Yeah, basics of a stock market. Basics of a stock market, many people buy a share, the price goes up. Many people sell a share, the price goes down, right? For you to be able to buy a share, somebody should be willing to sell the share. The transaction, and the both of you might be the most willing people on earth, but the transaction cannot happen after 3:30 p.m. if you're transacting in India. Why? Because the market is closed. So there is the market, which is probably has nothing to do with you or the customer, but has to do with the conditions of what prevail, right? So think of market not very specifically, but more generically. It could be the conditions under which you're there. For example, for you guys, right, your market that you said is defense, right? The defense could have a very, very specific procurement strategy, which is that, say, they will make budgets once a year and all the budgets have to be dispersed by April or May. I'm just making this up, but that's your market, because your window is only those 4 or 5 months. And if you miss your window, whoever you know, you're not going to be able to procure it. Even if they are completely convinced by your product, they will say, I don't have budget, come back next year. That's a market at that point, right? So you don't think of market very specifically, but think of it a lot more generically as the conditions that exist. Make sense? Any questions?
For a payment gateway, like what would you say is the market?
People would want to have to transact. There has to be something to buy online, there has to be something to sell online. I could be Razorpay, and if no e-commerce company exists in the world, I'm useless. So yeah, that's a market.
So you say e-commerce. Or okay, the first one you say like is anybody would like to do a transaction online supply?
Correct, anyone who wants. I'm just saying, taking that as an example.
Ask and bidding. Sir, like ask and bidding in cryptocurrency, right?
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency platform.
Again, without a cryptocurrency exchange, you can't do anything. You can verbally tell something that I will buy it from you. I mean, take the most simple example, right? Say, suppose you go to a store. You go to a store, you want to buy something from the store. The thing costs 500 rupees. You have 300 rupees. The guy does not take Google Pay. What can you do about it? Come back and get more money and go, right? At that point, the market doesn't exist for you, because something is, rather, the market exists for you, but there is no transaction possible because of other. But the store is open. You can go. You couldn't complete the transaction because of whatever reason. It has nothing to do with the market. The market exists because market is a condition that prevails at that point in time. You go after 10 o'clock to the same store with 500 rupees in your hand, you will not be able to transact because the store is closed. At that point, the market doesn't exist. So markets could be made, they could be disbanded at any point in time, depending on what the macro factors are. The easy example of that could be, you can advertise on TikTok, right? And people used, when TikTok was becoming big in India, people used to advertise on TikTok. Overnight, the government said TikTok is banned. The market for Indians advertising on TikTok became zero, because you could not do it. There's no point in you doing it. So there are reasons that markets don't exist anymore. There's pretty much that might not be in anyone's control. So a market is like more generic definition of, or rather, and one of it could be the actual market itself. So yeah, that. Questions?
You often confuse the market with customer.
Customers are on the market. Let's put it that way. So a market at a very base level, where are you going to sell? Like, don't take where very literally, but where as in what are the conditions under which you're going to sell. So market is broad, customer is narrow. Questions? Okay, what is your competition? I think I asked you at the beginning. Very, very important for you guys to think about it again. And anyone who says, I don't have competition, is not looking hard enough. My favorite example of this is what is Netflix's biggest competition? Netflix. You all know Netflix. What is Netflix's biggest competition? Prime Video, I'm assuming. Anything else? Hotstar. YouTube, nice. Disney Hotstar, okay. Anyone else? Geo Cinema, okay. Anything else? You know what Reed Hastings said? I think it was Reed Hastings or Reed Hoffman, one of the, no, Reed Hastings only, right. He said Netflix's biggest competition is sleep. Sleep. If you're sleeping, you're not watching Netflix. Think about it. It's not funny. Right? Different way of looking at your market. Every time you look at Amazon has a monopoly in the US. Right? Basically, I think 1 in 2 transactions or less is happening on Amazon for whatever they offer. Every time they say that you are a monopoly, and monopolies cannot exist because of regulations, they will say, but we are not a monopoly. How do they say they are not a monopoly? By saying Amazon might be the largest 1 in 2 transactions, but in all of the US, online transactions are less than 10%. Which means first you go talk to Walmart, then you come to us. What have they done? They have not said we make less money and all that. They have just said the market is much bigger than what you are defining it. Which means they are saying look differently at the competition. So anyone who thinks you don't have competition, you're not looking at the right places, because everyone always has competition, right? We for example, we have a product that does automated tagging, which is it looks at images and based on the models that we've trained, it gives you results. So for example, in fashion, if you put in the image of a shirt, I will tell you that it's a shirt, what the color is, what the pattern is, what the collar, neckline, etc., etc. For the longest time, we had a bunch of competition, right? Because those were the ones that we were encountering in all our sales, and they will say, oh, they'll give it to us cheaper, etc., etc. The biggest competition that existed and continues to exist till today is human beings, because today 99% of that is done by some human sitting in an Excel sheet, and that's our biggest competition. That's actually what we are playing against, not somebody else, because the market is much bigger than any one person can capture. But it took us a long time to realize that. And so our entire pitch changed from automation to something that helps you in increasing your productivity. Because immediately as soon as you said replacing humans, people are like, oh my God, jobs are going to go. Right? And people don't trust AI and all of that stuff. So we had to, and that came from it came from a place of, after we sold, the problems that we faced in implementing something. Because all of these companies are steeped in decades, if not more, of doing things a certain way. And if you have to go and change the way that they're doing things, you have to change mindsets. Changing mindsets is not easy, right? Convincing people to do something different is not easy. So think about that. That's an aside, but the competition, right? In the other way, simple way to look at it is, what other choices your buyer have? Again, you can go and spout all the amazing things about your product or your platform. The guy will say, yeah, I'm happy with doing what I'm doing. Thank you. We tried so hard to sell to Go Colors. I'm assuming you guys have all heard of Go Colors. So hard to sell to them. They were like, I'm sorry, no, I should tell you guys this. Have you guys heard of Nalli? Nalli, the sari shop. If you guys haven't, it's one of the most iconic sari shops in Madras, right? So we went, this is few years back. So we went and we met Mr. Nalli, I think he's not Nalli Kuppusamy, I think it's his son, whatever. So we met him, and we said, we have this amazing thing where we can do this and that and whatever. And if you use ours, because their online business is a small part of their larger offline. And for them it was just an after ramp. But we said, no, it's the future and whatever. So he was like, we went and sat in his office, and he said, so I have a guy who sits behind me at the counter, and no, not sits. The guy has a stool. So when the rush hour starts, typically he said a few days, the guy stands on the stool and he looks at people coming in is one job is to identify somebody who's coming in and tell me that I should pay attention to them. Why? Because very, very likely that they're going to be a very high value thing, right? Pure tribal knowledge, right? Guy who's seen, I don't know what goes through his head, you cannot train a model to do that, right? You just cannot, right? So the guy said, if you can replace that guy, come to me, otherwise don't waste my time. So it's what choice does he have? Many times the answer to this is the choice is to do nothing, and many people are perfectly happy not doing anything. So it's not enough if you sort of try and convince them that your product is great, and I say, yeah, okay. So this, yeah, try selling in Saukarpet, you guys will know what I'm talking about, right? There are people like that. They're very happy with what they're doing, so it is what it is. Cool. And in this, right, this is one of these frameworks that you guys can use in competitions called Porter's 5 forces. These are the 5 threats that you guys need to look at basically. What are the new entrants that are coming in, bargaining powers of buyers, suppliers, threat of substitutes, who else is there, and the degree of rivalry that exists in the market basically. So there are some of these markets that you should just not get into because it's just too low value or low margin, etc., unless you have a very specific reason to get into it. But otherwise, probably stay clear of, and all you guys don't, that doesn't matter. But think about it, right? This is one of these things that you can actually use. Questions? We'll come to what a business plan is at the end. All of this, I think, okay. Are you guys okay for another 5 minutes? Cool, okay, 5 minutes, I will finish. Even I am hungry. So, okay, all this sort of culminates in what is a business plan at the end of the day, right? So, this is what it's supposed to be defined as, right? It's a document that defines in detail a company's objectives and how it plans to achieve it. That's what it is, right? So, it lays out a written roadmap for the firm in marketing, financial, operational standpoints, and of course, everyone uses. This is, I think, from Investopedia, if I'm right? The TLDR version of this is how you're going to make money. Do you guys know what TLDR means? Everyone knows. I'm hoping some of you know. Some of you are young enough to know. No? You know? Too long, didn't read. So it's an internet acronym. So basically, all of this is distilled into this. A business plan is basically a way that tells you that tells somebody else how you're going to make money, right? So the TLDR version works for most parts, right? Yeah, so you should also look at this. Because many business plans at many stages are this. Right? Don't take this again seriously. The whole point of Dilbert is to understand reality and also be able to laugh at it. And which brings us to what we were supposed to do originally, this thing which is a business model canvas. A business model canvas is simply a framework. It is not going to give you the answer. It is just a way in which you can structure your thinking. And what I sort of did until now broadly falls under some of these. So the whole idea of this session was that you guys can actually fill this in so that you have an idea of how to go, what you want to do. A lot of these things might be very early stage for a lot of you. Don't worry about it. Fill in what you know. Go in that direction of the things that you absolutely know that you are going to nail down. But use as sort of a benchmark, if you want to call it that, or sort of a guiding thing where you can keep updating it. It's not like a one time you write it, it's set in stone, it's over. Keep updating it over time and things like that. So, yeah, I think that's about all I had. Any questions or comments or feedback, actually? Or if everyone's hungry, we'll go out to eat. What happened to Go? Oh, no, never mind. I think I forgot it's being recorded. No, I mean, again, Go Colors is bootstrapped. So it's very clear the difference between selling to a bootstrap company and selling to a venture funded company, because a bootstrap company at the end of the day only looks at bottom line. What is the profit that I'm going to get? most of our, at least in the e-commerce space, most of our products are along the lines of I will increase your revenue. So I cannot do anything about your operations. You make them more streamlined, you will see automatically profits going up. But at that point, it didn't happen.
You are a product-based company where you establish a deep tech trail of
We are actually both a product and a platform. So what we aim to be is what we are in the process of building now is a platform, which other people can build on top of. But because we have to, and this is a word that should have come up, it didn't. All of you have to, at this point, only think about one thing, which is establishing product market fit. Identify your market, define your product, establish that the need for that exists. Otherwise, you're not going to make money, right? So, because we had to establish product market fit, we could not go in as a platform because we had no credentials to say, we are a platform, everyone come and build on us. So, we started by building products out. So, we had products for retail, which had their own its own brand called View. It was built on our platform, but then we didn't market the platform. It was marketed as products, SaaS company. We sold, and with that, we sort of got traction in the market, and now we are slowly opening out the platform. So the way that we went about it was built products. We identified retail as the vertical we want to go behind, built products to cater to retail, got a decent product market fit, moved to non-retail, and after that, now moving to opening out the platform. So we are both a product and a platform company, and we will continue to build out products because we've built it, and we continue to know that there are market needs for products. So platform, the fundamental difference is a product is usually used by a business user. A platform is used by a tech user. So in at least in our this thing, that's the fundamental difference between the two.
So the fund that is required initially to build the technology, right? Like, we will not have any revenue model itself when we are working on the.
Again, that depends on how if you get customers early enough to who are vested in you, you can actually get them to pay for your product building. So you can do MVPs with them, and if that works out and you see a market demand, then you can productize it. You don't need to productize everything from the beginning and make it a beautiful looking product. At least in B2B, you don't need to do it. B2C is a different case altogether.
Value proposition.
Yeah, what is your value proposition? What is your company's value proposition? What value are you offering to your customer?
In terms of the product.
Yeah, in terms of the product.
Quality of it.
Whatever you think identifies your company's value to somebody who is buying it. By company, I mean it could be a company, it could be a product, it could be anything, right? Like some companies' value propositions include saying, we are a green company. They might be making random software, but then one of their USPs is that we are carbon neutral, we are this, we are that. That's part of their ethos, that's part of their value proposition. Apple, for example, they said they are not putting chargers in phone because people put chargers in landfills. It's a little bullshit, but okay, people buy it, say okay, fine, whatever. So it's part of what your value proposition is. It could be anything, and that's for you to define. It could be a combination of your product, your ethos, your why, it could be any of it. So
Customer relationships and channels.
that's what we spoke about, no? Customer relationship, meaning who is your ideal customer profile. So all of this, there's a lot of material on it, you guys can go and read up on what to fill there. Customer relationships could be one part could be your ideal customer profile. Two could be who are your influencers, who are your buyers, who are your sponsors, etc. Channels is how are you going to reach them, what I said. So what I've until this is actually distilled from this. So it sort of all will fit in here. Some force fitted also, but yeah, mostly. The only thing that you'll not see here broadly is markets, because it is sort of slightly external to it, but the key part of all the markets can come in different parts here. Cool. Any other questions?
So we have to list the key partners over there.
Yes. So the business model canvas is basically for you guys to take this and fill all parts of it. And once you do it, it has the makings of a baseline business model. So if you fill all of this, and if you translate this into English, it sort of becomes your business model. This is a way to compartmentalize all your different thoughts, put them into different places, and then put it all together. So that's broadly what this is. It's not the only tool that is out there. There are multiple things, but this is something that has sort of been established, and it works to an extent. So Again, the whole idea of using a tool or a framework is not to use it as is, but to adopt it to what you want out of it. So if you are a pre-revenue company, don't worry about revenue streams at this point. Know that I will get money, otherwise it's no point. Or the revenue stream can be VC money. It could be, right? Because that's the way that you're getting money. Whatever. Or not revenue stream, it could just be a money flow. How am I getting my money? Well, cost could be how am I spending my money.
And can you give more glimpse about value propositions?
Yeah, like I said, right, value proposition could be a combination of product and your company's ethos and the market and why you are doing it. It could be a bunch of any of these things. This is a separate discussion in itself. Again, I think there is a session for you guys on value proposition. Cool. All right. Okay, guys, if there's nothing else, thank you so much for your time.